to our 31 Under 31 celebration and panel event hosted by Yankton Thrive and the Nextwave Network. My name is Lauren Heinrichs. I'm the Business Services Director at Yankton Thrive, and I'm also on the Nextwave Network leadership team. Before we kick off our panel tonight, I want to take a moment to recognize and celebrate this year's 31 Under 31 honorees. So if you were featured in this year, would you please stand up for me? So each of you is nominated by someone who sees the impact you're making, not just in your workplaces, but in the community as a whole. This year's group represents a wide range of industries, from healthcare to small business, manufacturing to education, nonprofit, finance, ag, and so much more. It's inspiring to see such diversity in both career paths and personal passions, all converging here in Yankton. You are all proof that young professionals are shaping the future of this community in meaningful, lasting ways. I also would like to thank our 4 panelists here, Stacy, Ryan, Joe, and Liz, for agreeing to participate and taking the time to share your insight with all of us today. These 4 were all featured in a 31 Under 31 campaign from previous years, and they're going to talk about their experiences as young professionals in the Yankton community. So now I'll turn things over to Brittany Wagner, our panel moderator for the evening.
All right, so I am honored to have conversations with our 4 panelists tonight. Very casual, grab yourself a beer, hang out, and then please stay afterwards to continue to mingle and network. But you're not here to listen to me, so we're just gonna pass the mic down the line. Would you please introduce yourselves, your company that you work for, and what being nominated for 31 Under 31 meant to you?
Good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, I guess. Ryan Schwach. I'm an attorney here in town. I've been practicing since 2011. My wife and I have a law practice together. Birmingham and Schwach law offices. We're right downtown by the bridge. And when I was nominated, I had just moved back to town. I was really excited about it to get that nomination. Spent a lot of time thinking about what that graphic should say. And then, the only comment on it was, we have some normal people get nominated, and so I was like, how does that person know I'm not normal? I don't know if that is. But it meant a lot at the time, especially since I had just moved back to Yankton and was trying to feel connected to the community.
Hi everybody, my name is Joseph Tilke. I work for South Dakota Housing. South Dakota Housing is a quasi-state entity. I always tell folks the best way to describe it is it's like a nonprofit bank and acts as a pass-through for federal and state funds. The program I have direct oversight for is related to homeless response efforts across the state with federal funds. Being named to the 31 Under 31 to me was not a surprise at all, because my girlfriend at the time, was the one who was creating the list that so I can't quite say it's no, I think I had some folks around me at the time who really put it into good context, which is, this doesn't mean you get to rest or anything, it just means you have more expectations on it. And I think that's probably the best way to look at it.
Good evening, I'm Liz Healy. I work for Avera Sacred Heart. I am the infection prevention coordinator there. I'm a nurse by trade and had worked on the floors for several years, and then now I do infection prevention. What it meant it was my husband and I actually that were both focused on for the 31 Under 30, and I think a lot to Ryan's point, we had recently moved back to Yankton, or I had from Texas. My husband at that time was thinking about running for county commission, and so it was just a really good way to, one, meet other young people in Yankton that maybe have similar views, or that we needed to reach out to learn about their views, and it was just a really great opportunity to highlight what we're trying to do and get involved in other ways.
Hey everyone, I'm Stacey Hubert. I'm Edward Jones' financial advisor, and when I was named one of the 2017 31 Under 30 recipients, I was very excited because I was in my third year of starting my own business. Year 1, I was just like floating on clouds, doing really, really well. Year 2 was survival, and then year 3 was like, oh, someone's actually noticing the hard work and effort that I've put in the last 2 years. So it was like my cup getting full. So thank you for recognizing me.
And can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. Stacy, would you keep the mic? Because my first question is
The business that I was opening, which is financial planning, and I was passionate about it. So when I had that energy and mixed with the next thing was sincerity, I was really sincere, trying to be very approachable and transparent and get to know them, make them more comfortable to open up to me, and just being able to, because finances do have a lot of emotions wrapped up in them, so letting them know that when they talk to me, like there's no judgment, and so I was trying to have and learn this too, as having empathy as a young professional. That was something I was learning while I was making meaningful contact or connections with them.
next one will be for you. Continuing on the theme of relationships, healthcare, obviously relationships are imperative. Can you talk a little bit about relationships with colleagues and the broader Yankton community, and how this environment has shaped your professional development and approach to leadership?
So yes, relationships within a hospital system, really any sort of business where you work with all tracks of different people. I think within Avera, they very much invest in leadership opportunities. So they have something like it's called Avera Aspiring Leaders. But I also was eligible through the American Hospital Association, a Next Generation Leadership program that really my leadership encouraged me to apply for, encouraged me to participate in. And so all of those things really helped shape what kind of leader I was. And it helped to build relationships within the hospital, because you are working with patients of all walks of life, many of them having the worst day of their life. But you're also working with different healthcare workers, everything from housekeepers to surgeons to quality representatives to other nurses, and so you have to be able to find a collaboration with them, find a point where you can mutually agree on something and work together towards that. And so I think that the leadership tracks that I was put into really helped to build that. But again, I think talking with what Stacy just said about being sincere and making a connection has been the most profound thing that I have done that has helped with my leadership.
Okay, Ryan, you're up. As an attorney practicing in Yankton, you interact with many different parts of the community, families, farms, businesses. For young professionals trying to establish themselves in a smaller community, what advice would you give them about building a professional reputation?
Yeah, so professional reputation is different than how your book of business, right? Is what people think about you in the community. And I guess, from my personal experience, the one thing I did that I would encourage all young people to do, because we need more young people to do it, is run for office. I served in the state legislature from 2018 to 2022. And it was just it was a great personal experience and a great professional experience. Opened a lot of doors. Obviously, from a professional standpoint, you're really validated in the community. If you've gotten elected, one of the downsides of that professionally is when I was not re-elected, I picked up a lot of business, and it was because people thought I went to DC. Or that I went to Pier all the time, and was unavailable. And so, talking about learning, how can you find out needs of the community, whether you're in a professional practice or you're in something that's not considered professional, running for office is a great way to do that and a great way to serve your community. And I always tell people who are thinking about it, you should do it when you're young, because it's more fun, and you have more capacity to do it, and push the edge. So I think in terms of, and the one thing about it too, to the question is, I went door to door, running to people at the grocery store. You actually start to know what the community needs and what it values, and it did influence my practice in that. When I campaigned, I talked about the nursing home, and I spent 2 hours talking about the nursing home. that's what I would encourage, whether you're 31 or just slightly over, it doesn't have to be state legislature, but, consider running for office. It's really important to have young people do that.
Great answer. Joe, as someone who works from home, it can come with challenges and benefits. How have you navigated that balance, and what strategies have helped you stay productive, connected, and continue growing in our community?
Yeah, thank you. I relied on my wife quite a bit because she'd already been working from home for 2 years, and so I had observed, she just had this really solid routine, and I knew that was going to be a struggle for me because I was coming from an environment that was very fast-paced. People were like, "Here's what I need," and I needed it now, by the way, and the tempo was going to change to something where I'm dictating the pace for myself, and so I think that creating an environment that is your work environment and separate from life is really important, not just to make sure that you're engaged in work there, but that you're disengaged from work when you're outside of the environment. And that's physical space in your environment, and then also your digital, because there was too long there where I had my work email and Teams on every device, and then you're just obsessively trying to solve all the problems that come your way as well. And that was another thing I had to learn as well too. It might sound counterintuitively, but I was checking my email too much. I was checking it every 5 minutes, and so every time something came in, it was like, well, here's something now that I need to do. Or segmenting all the work into batches was where I was able to just put in the deep focus and ultimately get more efficiency from what I needed, as opposed to just being scattershot. I think as far as staying connected, that's where you really need to over-communicate. You need to almost schedule in-person time. Anytime I'm going up to peer, I always push in a lot more time for those face-to-face interactions, because those really are crucial, because you just never quite know what you're missing out in the office conversation. It can sometimes make you a little bit paranoid, but you have to be in touch with that, because that's ultimately the people that are going to be making the decisions to control your career are the ones that you're going to have the least amount of interaction when you're working from home. And I think that lastly, I would say, to continue to grow, that's where you just really need to be critical of yourself, and in a way, like, where am I falling behind? What can I do to improve the quality of work that I'm doing, or to just find the next bottleneck that is coming down to face my team and help my people and myself value.
Great answer.
That was a great answer. Working from home isn't always what it's chalked up to be, unless you're my husband and bake cookies in his lunch break. So, Liz, next question for you. Healthcare systems can offer unique opportunities to innovate or take initiative. What experiences in Yankton have allowed you to stretch your skills and make a meaningful difference early in your career?
Yeah, this is a wonderful question. I think first and foremost were my leaders who listened to my ideas and encouraged me to roll with that idea. Healthcare is very innovative, it's very evidence-based, so a lot of times you come in kind of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and you have all these ideas, and if you have a leader that squashes that right away, it can squash it for the rest of your career. I was incredibly blessed to have leaders that did the very opposite of that. They very much encouraged me. Sometimes they would give me like short-term opportunities that would allow skills to shine. And then in addition, I would bring in others for that project, that short-term project, to really look through a problem that's happening, look through that process, get a small group together, troubleshoot, and do a performance improvement. So right there, that allowed me to stretch my skills. I think we all want to work for a place that has leadership that encourages that. I think the other thing was, even outside of the community, getting involved with different boards, different opportunities, kind of like the Nextwave group, just having those skills and meeting other people and seeing what other opportunities are available in your community that you live in and you work in, and honing those skills in order to make a meaningful difference, and just wanting to continue to be involved.
Pass it over to Stacy. Stacy, I'm going to feed off of that because Liz talked about squashing goals, squashing dreams, and then needing that kind of self-reflection guidance. Can you talk a little bit how early in your career, what experiences and approaches helped you gain confidence and grow in your role?
Okay, so I have a couple ideas that came to mind when I read this question, and the first is, like, my professional network is really important to me because oftentimes I'm asked for referrals when I'm meeting with my clients. So I'm in the finance industry and clients want to know who I recommend they get their taxes done by or who they go see to do a will or a trust. And so early on in my career, I met with as many like CPAs or tax preparers and attorneys that I could possibly sit in front of and do a little mini interview. They didn't feel like they were getting interviewed, but they were. And if I felt comfortable with them and kind of matched their personality style with like my style, I had a better opportunity or better conviction giving my clients their name, that they would have a good experience working with that professional. And then oftentimes now I have repeat visits with those professionals that I build my network around. So that's one of the biggest professional network opportunities that I've deployed. The second one is prioritizing follow through. I think this is a really big deal as you're a young professional. If you say you're gonna do something for someone or get back to them, do it. That's as simple as that. Just prioritize your follow through.
Okay, Joe, we'll go back to you. Looking back, was this the career that you originally planned? And along the way, what unexpected skills did you have to learn to be successful or stand out from your competition?
I didn't plan this career at all. I didn't plan any career. I was a college dropout. There was a point there where I realized, wow, I'm really falling behind in my peers. And really what changed and what kind of set up this pattern that I'm starting to notice in a lot of things is I showed up and I did a job that nobody wanted to do. There was a program manager and they were like, there's this one thing we have to do. I don't want to learn how to do it. You know, it was had to do with managing a grant from federal funds. And they're like, I just don't want to learn how to do it. And then they were, just can you take care of this? And I said, yes. And then when I look back and reflect on my career, kind of every major opportunity that's come my way has been by like, this is going to be a problem and we need somebody to step up to. Like, and I just showed up. I was enthusiastic, and I had great mentors along the way too. I think that was something that I lacked, and what maybe led me astray for a while. But I realized, you know, there are a lot of people who I could just candidly ask, what would you do in this situation? It doesn't mean you have to follow their advice, but you need those perspectives because there's a lot of decisions that you're going to have to make, and you probably shouldn't make all of them alone. So all of the skills that I learned, I mean, I think that none of us, you know, now are living in a world where it's like, I'm just going to master this one skill and then have job security, and I'm good. It's like, you always have to be learning something. You always have to be aware of what the changes are coming and how you can adapt and market yourself to your current and maybe potential, you know, future employers as well. Is there a third part to that question? I can make one if there is.
Stand out from the competition. Do the things people don't want to do.
Do the things that you don't want to do, and do it with a smile on your face. I know that sounds so old school, but honestly, there are a lot of people that I know I can add to my team who are very, very smart, but they are such a thrill to be around. And we're going to manage just fine without you. We'll work maybe a little bit harder to make up for what we're lacking in your intelligence, but at the end of the day, we're all going to go home happy because we have a team with some real camaraderie and not somebody who's a complete ignorance. So that's where I'm at. Thanks.
Is that different? Okay, you're up again. You and your wife have chose to build a legal career here in Yankton, a community where you both grew up. What type of opportunities exist in a community like ours that maybe people don't realize or maybe think are missed opportunities from like a bigger community?
Yeah, you know, obviously, so kind of my background, graduated law school in 2011, worst time to graduate as a young attorney. There were like no jobs because of the Great Recession in 2009. Jobs that were out there for people who lost their jobs in 2009. And so my practice started in Bloomfield, Nebraska, after a couple years in Sioux Falls, where Birmingham, that's not my name, it's not my wife's name, I had an opportunity to take over his practice. And what that meant for me, that I think is unique to other areas, is, I mean, I was managing that practice 6 months after I took it over, you know, so just tremendous amount of responsibility and opportunity, I guess, to kind of screw it up. But the beauty of it was it kind of taught me to strengthen skills that I think are important in small town communities that maybe are less important. And it's been my experience with bigger community attorneys, like they seem pretty different because they always just kind of expect this with the work, whereas I feel like at a smaller community, you know, people have to like you have to be likable, you have to like yourself. And that's something that I think I get out of this community is that because of the profession I'm in and how front-facing it is at a young age, which for the law profession, traditionally, the younger you are, the less likely you are to interact with the client. As you gain experience, then you get to interact with the clients, but I was doing it right away. And I'm sure that's true if you're in financial advising, healthcare, everything. I mean, it's a benefit and a burden that you get to kind of jumpstart on a lot of aspects of your career, you know, in doing it. And then the other thing that's just really unique to our practice is it's just me and my wife. We talk about this all the time, like, do we need to add another attorney to help us? And then it's like we're adding like another person to our marriage. And that gives us like real hesitancy because right now, like, we're just responsible for, like, we're just accountable towards each other. And that's really nice. And we're completely transparent. Third person comes in, then there's another person we have to be accountable to. And so that kind of, at least in my setting, in our small business, gives us, you know, a lot of, I guess, freedom, or maybe we're holding ourselves back. That's the debate my wife and I have all the time by doing that. But I think the biggest thing on a professional level is that interaction is just something you don't normally get in most professions. And it's a hard skill, actually, to have to like be nice to somebody all the time. Like, do you hear this guy talking about bills?
That's a good answer. Okay, last question, and it'll be the same question for all of you. And you can go in any order. 2 parts here. If you could give your younger self one piece of advice about working and growing in Yankton, what would it be? And then second part, what's one thing you think our community could do a better job of to support and retain the young professionals in our community?
I'll take the second one first. And I really think
You have to answer both.
I will definitely answer both. So my answer does kind of center around work from home because I am kind of surprised whenever, you know, somebody will make the headlines about the return to office mandates, whether it's government or large corporations, and I'm kind of surprised when rural communities and chambers of commerce don't immediately get back at them and say, no, we're going to fight the brain drain that's happening, and we're going to try to keep young people and young professionals in our communities because there are lots of jobs that they can do just fine here in our community and don't have to move to Sioux Falls or wherever it may be. So I think that is something that is maybe a perspective shift and maybe a fight that they've been avoiding for a bit too long. I think that you can only go so far in targeting a community for someone that's charmed, so to speak. You know, people need to be able to afford that charm on their off time. As far as advice to get involved, invest in the community, I think that echoes a few things that have been said already. Find a mentor, find somebody who's where you want to be in 5 to 6 years, and I'm sure that they will be happy to talk to you about how they got there and what's that you can do to set yourself up for that as well. That advice has never failed me yet. And lastly, I would say, don't put up with bad bosses. Don't ever put up with bad bosses or toxic leadership, because I think that there are some people that do it and they think this is just something I gotta endure, something I gotta tolerate, and they don't even realize that all the while that you're enduring them, a good boss would have invested in you, would have introduced you to new opportunities, would have seen you as an asset instead of something to control. So if you have a boss who's self-centered and toxic, honestly, quit tomorrow.
I think the piece of advice I would say to myself is to listen to better, to make a connection earlier with people. I also have done like one of the work personality tests, and that really helped open up my eyes to my faults. I feel like we all kind of know what we're good at, and we don't think we're bad at anything. My job right now is very data driven. Almost every decision I make is based on data, but one of my faults is that I'm too data driven, and I don't want to make a decision until I know all the pros and all the cons and all the benefits and all the risks. And so I might drive people that are able to make quicker decisions, kind of instant decisions. I drive them nuts because I'm like, whoa, I gotta look at all the data. That was actually a really big eye-opener for me. I never saw that as a fault. And one of those work personality tests really actually helped me realize what I need to work on and you know, to be honest about it. I think for a community to grow young professionals, so much of what George just said, I think I would really agree with. But also, I think cities and communities need to invest in infrastructure. And one example is, you know, currently we're our library. And I know it probably seems kind of silly, but our city is currently looking at a new library. Do we need a new library? Do we need to renovate that new library? But a great library is something that's so important for every single age, every single gender, every single socioeconomic status, young professionals, students, young children, people that need a break, need somewhere to read. And so I think things like that, we invested in a beautiful archery center and a cool pool. And we have beautiful parks and golf courses, and we have this awesome lake. And that's where young people we want things to do. We don't want to sit at home. We want these beautiful areas. And so I think to help harbor, you know, young professionals, the cities and our communities certainly need to invest in those things that people want to do. And then I would agree. I would say that getting involved and getting into different boards, whatever you're passionate about. Don't just join a board because somebody asked you to join a board, but figure out what you are passionate about and apply to be on. There's always boards looking for people, and so apply to be on that board of something that you're passionate about. The great thing is that when you have especially for nonprofits, when you have a community that has a board of directors that is diverse and has many people with different skills, it makes such light work. So you're not spending all this time when you're outside of work doing work. You can divvy it up, and sometimes you bring a really special skill. Maybe you're not great at fundraising, but you're great at Canva, and you can do that sort of thing, and that's what all these different boards need. So I certainly think getting involved helps as well.
That's awesome. Okay, a piece of advice I'd give to my younger self. It might not seem this way, but when I was getting started, I was very serious, and Teresa, maybe you can attest to this. I was very judgmental and critical of myself, and almost like this perfectionist mentality. And it held me back in some areas. So the advice I'd give my younger self is like let go of that perfectionist mentality and kind of just have more fun. You can have fun at work. I didn't know that. So that's been great to incorporate that in my growth journey as a young professional. And then what I would change about the community or offer 2 suggestions. Can you make it sunny and 75? Sunny and 75 year round? No. But in all honesty, some more childcare options that a young fam, or just here, like there's just limited childcare options. I think that's not a young professional thing, maybe it is. Yeah. Not in agreement, yes. So everything everyone said, plus a little extra childcare options.
Well, the advice I would give is actually to myself is very practical. Do the full remodel all at once. That, in addition to like it just being something you should do when it comes to a construction project. So we completely remodeled the KYT building, but we did the interior first, and then we didn't want to spend all the money right away, so then we did the bathroom. did the windows, which you definitely do the windows first. And then we had to do the HVAC, and then we, like, the radio tower, we owned a radio tower for a while. And that is very expensive to take down. And I would have been so much happier if I had just bited it all at once instead of spreading it out. It's the only marital strife my wife and I ever have is on remounts. So that's it for that. As regarding like what Yankton could do to be more attractive to younger communities, or younger people. That's really tough because all rural towns like suffer with this and are like with these issues, and it's hard to distinguish. And one of the things is I feel like Yankton does a great job of marketing itself as a place to be like a young family, and it is just like a tremendous place to have like a family, and that's kind of undisputed. But people are having their families or starting their families later and later. Like, our family started late, and particularly in professional settings, that's more and more true. And so when I was here and I did not have a young family, I didn't feel like Yankton did necessarily a great job of like communicating with me. And I don't know, that's not necessarily something that the chamber like fixes. That's more of like a cultural thing, right? Because younger people aren't attracted to like what the Chamber of Commerce is doing.
Respectfully.
Yeah. But it was always kind of frustrating when, before we had the young family. And Yankton has a lot to offer that's not necessarily tied to just having a family. It's a cool place to be. It's beautiful. There are some cultural, I think, aspects we could add to it. Restaurant scene is a lot better now than it was like when I was here. But I think to the point about improvements, I think about this a lot because it doesn't feel like Yankton is moving forward right now, but it's actually, we've tackled like some pretty big things for Yankton historically with the swimming pool, with the TLC, and so I have to remind myself, like, it's okay that this community like wants to take a breath after doing two big projects that increased everybody's taxes. And people wanted to do that. But I do think like a library is a great example for younger people to do. But, and I don't know, I don't have an answer on how you get like 25-year-olds to do anything. But it is an observation I have is on a cultural level, gosh, most of the 25-year-olds I know who live in Yankton are from Yankton. They came back here because they wanted to be here. And so then the question becomes is, well, how do you get those 25-year-olds that we need that aren't here, that aren't from here, that would maybe want to be here? And that's tough because it's kind of like that Seinfeld joke, like, we're not taking any more friend applications. Sometimes I feel like that's kind of how our community is when newer people come to town. Probably something we should work on.
All right, thank you guys. Let's hear a round of applause for our panelists. This event was hosted in conjunction with Thrive and Nextwave Network. Lauren would like to speak a little bit about Nextwave Network, our young professionals group, and how you can get involved. After all of our panelists have told you to get involved.
Can't just, steal it.
Yeah, so, yes. So I just want to share a little bit about Nextwave. Nextwave is the Yankton Area's Young Professionals Group, and so we formed about a year and a half ago. We were led by a leadership team who plans and executes all of our events. Right now, we host events every other month, with events ranging from professional development to purely social and fun events. So we've done everything from trivia nights, pickleball, game night, lunch and learns, and even a sunset sail on the Lewis and Clark Lake. So Nextwave is really open to anyone. We say our targeted age range is 18 to 40, but of course we would never turn anybody away, so all is welcome. This group is all about connecting, growing, and just having fun together. So if anyone would like to be added to our Nextwave email list, I do have a little QR code up here, so if you scan that, you can get signed up to get our emails to to learn about events upcoming. So with that, stay tuned for details on our next big event in June. But thank you again to all of our panelists. We really appreciate you being here. Oh yes, we do have some candidate forums. So April 14th and 15th, Tuesday and Wednesday, we have candidate forums for the County Commission and Auditor position, I believe is on April 14th at the Elks from 12 to 1:30. And then the other State House and Senate forum is Wednesday, April 15th from 12 to 1:30 also at the Elks. So come on down to hear from all of our candidates for those positions running in the June primaries. So thank you all for being here. We really appreciate you, and thank you to our panelists again.